is Ellen Rohr, an old friend of Ted and mine. So we were discussing before we got on how long ago it was that we met. I met Ellen. I distinctly remember meeting Ellen on Know It All Lane, and we'll get to that in just 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see everybody. I'm going to close this program so I can blow everybody up and I can see you. And wow, look at that. We're all big again. Woo. So I'm quite enjoying this beer, by the way.
Well, Ellen, I remember meeting you, 5, 6 years ago at the ECR event when I worked at ECR. Remember when you did a presentation there?
Right. I know you, and I was trying to figure it out, but I'm old. It all blends. There's like one trade show that we all met at, and it's like Thanksgiving dinner to me. My mother will say, "You remember the Thanksgiving where you sat?" And I'm thinking, I have one Thanksgiving memory that's all just kind of blended together. It's like meeting at these shows, but I'm so happy to be here. And Steve, what a nice presentation. You guys are super organized. And how cool to be back with my friends today. I have a guest star today. Can I trot him out?
Oh, my buddy there.
Oh, wait a minute. Only if he shows his boots, because I want to see if he has the flames on. Hey, Hot Rod.
Utah. No flames.
No flames today.
Damn it.
No flames today.
So say hi, Hot Rod.
Thirsty Thursday, he cracked a beer. It's sitting right.
The spirit of Thirsty Thursday.
For those of you who don't know Hot Rod is like Ted and I in the hydronics world. He works for Califfi. He does as much, if not more, experiment. In fact, I know he does more experimentation than I do these days because I've stopped doing it. And he plays. You can see his playground in the background behind him. And I love when he sits here and puts stuff online and just starts screwing with stuff.
And he trots out all these things that are blasts from the past, right?
Yeah, we were just going through that. That's so cool.
Radiant ruler.
Pad.
The rad pad.
He's a saver. I'm a thrower outer.
Yeah, I have the same thing with my wife.
See?
I come home and she's piled stuff up on the kitchen counter as to this is the next step before the trash can. Yeah. So I get to pick what I want to keep or what goes. So that's unique. That's unique.
So then it's in a pile for the next day?
I am a saver. Robert has some really cool stuff because he does save stuff. I pitch it all. We moved from Know It All Lane out to Utah. I had like a shopping bag and he had like 4 pods like going across the country. That's for sure.
Yeah, and when I met you, you were on Know It All Lane, and Max was just a little kid running around. Now he's working for Califfi too.
Yeah, I know. I'm a proud mama. And even as you were like poking fun at that installation, I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm looking at, but I'm going to just laugh along with everybody. I don't have any of those skills. I don't bring any of that to the party. I just thought it would be fun to be in hydronic world during our program today. So I'm broadcasting from Hot Rod Shop.
You gotta love that. You gotta love that. And I'm of course from my brewery, so that's kind of fun too, right? So, so Ellen, I have to say, when I met you, you were introduced to me as this is Hot Rod's wife, Ellen, and yeah. Of course, Hot Rod at the time had his own plumbing business, and it was Jan and I. It was Radiant Tubing World, right? It was the day of Pex A and the Happy Foot at Weersbo, right? So what happened in the plumbing business? Because you've exploded from there, and I'm not going to get into the businesses after that and the books yet, but I just want to know the history of the plumbing business and how Hot Rod got to Califfi and you got to where you are.
Well, it's been a long, strange, and wonderful trip. But, once upon a time, Hot Rod and his best friend, a guy named Richard Yawks, started a plumbing company called very cleverly Hot Rod and Yawks Plumbing, Heating, and Solar in Park City, Utah. And that's going back to 1978 is when they started their company. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, wow.
77. I mean, we're all getting a little long in tooth. But that was, they started because they wanted to ski and have some fun and do some work on the side. And, they built up a business because they have good reputations and they knew what they were doing. And Hot Rod started doing radiant heat. You probably know this if you know Hot Rod. Started doing radiant heat back in New York with copper pipe and concrete, back in the day with his dad. So his dad was a plumber. That's where Hot Rod learned it. And he and Yox didn't really approach the business with a lot of, they were more interested in, at the time, I think, girls and skiing, and then, just fueling those activities. Of course, then I came along and things changed. You know how that goes. But the two of them had their business, and unfortunately, and I bring this story up a lot, unfortunately, Hot Rod's best friend and partner died, age 33. He literally worked himself into a health crisis, didn't feel well. He'd worked 100 hours that week. Our buddy Yox comes up to me and he says, I don't feel well. I hate this. I hate you. I hate Hot Rod. I hate our customers. I hate our guys. I hate everything. And I'm like, oh, you just need a day off. I'm always Miss Perky. And the next day he went to the hospital, and the day after that he died. And it was earth shattering. They were both 33 and 34, I think, at the time. And I bring it up because it's not worth that. So, if you came to this webinar tonight, oh, Ellen's going to teach me about business, and just know that you can figure it out. It doesn't matter how you got to where you are. The point of power is now. You can take some steps. You can improve your life, but it's not worth stressing over. Like, stress absolutely is going to harm you and your business. And it's just like, we got to take it a little bit easier. And that was really the lesson that Yox taught me. So then Hot Rod says, well, I'm going to go work for somebody else, because I don't really like the business part of business. After the dust settled and we mourned our friend, we had to decide what was going to happen with Hot Rod and Yox. So Hot Rod is like, I don't like the business part. I like the tools. I like the tech. That's where I shine. And if you want to type in whether or not you can relate to Hot Rod, go ahead and use the questions in the chat and keep in touch with us. But I know there's a lot of people who feel like that the business side of this business is not really their favorite part of it. And this is when I did something really dumb. I told Hot Rod, listen, no, here's what's going to happen. I have a degree in business. I've had a lot of work experience. I'm going to quit my real job, with the salary and vacation and benefits, and I'm going to come work with you. It'll be great. You turn out money and it'll be fantastic. Well, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. And for those of you who've ever had that, early days, those survival days of starting up in a business, especially mom and pop shops, you can be meaner to family members than you would ever be to someone else. And we just took it out on each other. Like, those are really tough days for us. I would say we don't have enough money, and it would sound like I'm not working hard enough. I'm not good enough. And those are the kind of you can feel the emotion, like that's how it goes until you have a clue as to what you were doing. And even as someone who graduated with a degree in business administration, I really didn't know anything about running a business. And then luckily, in the pages of Plumbing and Mechanical magazine, that's where I met Frank Blau. And who's met Frank Blau? Did you meet him, Ted?
Yes.
That
was an eye-opening experience.
I mean, he's had a lot of impact on many, many of us. And I always like to give Frank props, because he's the one who wrote an article in a magazine called How Much Should a Contractor Charge? It was in 1989.
I remember that article.
It was a game changer. And I read the article and I followed the math. And this is like, if you're writing things down, this is like the big thesis of the article was you have to charge more than it costs. And so I wrote him a letter and said, well, you're wrong about that.
And you can't do that if you don't know how much it costs.
Don't know how much, you can't figure it. That's exactly right, Ted. And so so I write him a letter that says, yeah, I followed the math. Dear Mr. Blau, help me. But everything you said won't work for me. You don't know my cheap guys, my cheap customers, like blah, 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 whine. I told him all the reasons why this sound article was never going to work for me. So he called me up, told me where my head was, and it was a dark place. This is the first time I met Frank. He calls me up as a result of me writing him this letter. And that really marked the beginning of this relationship, where he showed me how to read a balance sheet, profit and loss, how to keep score in the game of business. And very generously, that old fax paper that was really greasy and came in rolls? I would come into my office and there would just be like spools of this paper.
Yeah, it didn't come off. It was just a continual roll.
Like it was like the scrolls, and
That's scrolls.
and he showed me his financial reports. He taught me how to read a balance sheet and profit and loss on his financials. Like who does that? It was really an impactful moment. And it took me a hot minute to, as Frank says, take the medicine because it was scary.
So yeah.
How come I'm charging $30 an hour at the time? Because everybody else in my marketplace is charging 35. And I thought, well, I'll charge a little bit less, to get the job. I mean, I did everything wrong. And we were bleeding money. We're not paying ourselves. We're resentful. We're hating each other. And our poor guys are just living with this, right? So everything that could go wrong is going wrong. And Frank was really the one who put me on the path. And I'll tell you, if you're relating to that right now, with the way costs are and fuel is and materials are and steel is, and it's not going to get better. These prices aren't going to go back down. We just raised, just cutting to present time, we just raised our prices again at Zoom Drain 20%. Just
Wow.
across the board, man, because that you have to charge more than it costs. And this is what I've learned over time. So in any event, that was the path I took. So when I figured out what a balance sheet was, what a profit and loss was, how to put a little budget together, how to add up my cost of doing business and divide by the number of billable hours, this is Frank Blau 101, I realized that I was charging a fifth of what I needed to be charging at the time. So I'm turning to my team and Hot Rod and saying, okay, here's what the problem is. We're not charging enough. So we're going to have to quintuple our prices. Now, as you can imagine, that brings up a lot of fear. And so the next step in my journey is I really became a proponent of open book management. I didn't know that that's what it was called, but I didn't know how else to convince Hot Rod and our guys that we needed to charge more. Here's the math. That's what Frank did with me. That's what I did with my guys. Now, as we learned this, by the way, another really impactful voice in my life was a guy named Jack Stack, wrote a book called The Great Game of Business. And Jack is the one who used the term open book management. And I'm like, oh, this is a thing? This is like something you can do? Heartily recommend that book, Great Game of Business by Jack Stack. Came out 25 years ago. It's a must read for business owners. So in any event, we raised our prices and we started to make money. It was that simple. Now, did some people balk? Did we have some complaints? Yes. And here's a question for you. Have you ever done work for your mom or for the church and charged them nothing and they still complain?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Even if you build them, they would not pay you. Stop.
Pay them, and they're still going to complain. I mean, there's at some point there is going to be. It's just a problematic nature. People want heat, but they really want the price tag. People want clear drains, but they don't want to. I get it. I don't want to pay for it either. If our water heater goes out, I have Hot Rod. He gets a great price on water heater. I still don't want to have any of this happen. The good news about our industry, oh, it's such good news, is we're essential, important, world-changing providers of goods and services. And that's so awesome, especially now. But the downside of it is you're dealing with problems and that puts people on their edge. And so just given that that is the industry we deal with, learning how to work with people, to soothe them, to hear them, to present your goods and services in such a way that they say, oh, they're expensive, but they're so worth it. That became our journey, right? So we got better at it. And in short order, we turned a lot of debt into a lot of profit. We started to make money, and money buys options. So that's when I wrote the book, Where Did the Money Go? And how much should I charge? They're thin, they have pictures, they use QuickBooks for illustration. I wrote those books because I would have given my right arm for those books once upon a time.
Well,
and I thought books aren't out there, and that's why I wrote them.
So and it's funny that you say that because, here in Pennsylvania, we have a 5-year apprenticeship program. So it's 5 years to go from apprenticeship to journeyman, which when you graduate that, you should be ready to take your master's test, right? And it's 1 year of drawing valves. It's another year learning how to solder, and back then it was solder lead pans and pour lead joints. It was a year of hydronic heating and 2 years of air conditioning. But in none of that was there a business course. And none of that was, here's your overhead, here's the cost of your truck, here's the cost of your fuel, here's the cost of your building, here's the cost of your equipment, here's what it costs you to put a guy on the road that you're going to pay for 40 but bill for 30. And people just don't see this, Ellen.
Yeah. And it's better now. It's absolutely better. There are, pioneers who went before you now, who have figured out, their asset from their elbow, charge more than it costs, are establishing premium pricing in almost every market across the country. It is so much better than it was 30 years ago. But this is still, the trades in general are really a poverty-based industry. There are so many awesome technicians. Like people even say, well, they don't charge enough, they can't be very good. Some of them are really good. Some of
They
them
just don't know how to charge.
They just don't know how to charge. And so then, for me, like I don't know how to pick up a channel locks or I just know what one is anymore. But, always admired Hot Rod's skill set, and I get to meet all his cool friends. In the hydronics world, I'm still Hot Rod's wife. That's still my cachet is as Hot Rod's wife. He's kind of a legend. In my own right, what I've developed is a name and a career, really just trying to figure out this mom pop shop stuff. Like, how do you do the business side of your business? How simple can we make it? What are the few things that really matter? And so once we had some money, this is what happened. I turned to Hot Rod one day and I said, you know what? This is working. I didn't know it would work, but it is. And here we are. We have some money. We have some options. Money buys options. And I asked him, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? Why are we doing this? All those big business planning questions, right? And Hot Rod turned to me and he said, I want to work all by myself. And, as I look back on it, I went through like the 5 stages of death. I was always quitting or being fired. I mean, it was hard. We didn't get along great when we worked together. Some couples do, some couples don't. We did not. And you have the right to do what you want. And he said, I like the technical stuff. I don't like the business stuff. I don't like working with you. I would rather work all by myself. And so we decided to sell our company. So that's why we don't work together. And so that moment, like in my career, in my life, the first thing I did is I handled the money. We handled the money, stopped the bleeding, charged more, had some options. And then the second significant moment was a business planning moment where I asked Hot Rod, what do you want? And I feel like we all have the responsibility to ask and answer that question for ourselves. And there's no wrong answer, right? It's not like you have to grow a business. It's not like you have to have a business at all. You have the opportunity to do what you want. And I will say that Hot Rod is probably the most self-actualized guy I know, because he spends all day doing what he wants. How cool is that?
Perfect.
Does it get better than that?
It's so a couple takeaways on that. One, know what your overhead is, which is everything that it's going to cost you. And two, if you do what you love, the money will follow, which I explained to my son. He got his doctorate out he's the first doctor in my entire lineage, and in mechanical engineering, fluid dynamics, no less, right? And so he did this, and he says, what do you think, Dad? This is all the reasons I want to do this. And he goes through the finances and the jobs and blah, 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 blah. And I said, but will you love to do it? And he says, well, I don't know. I said, okay. And he lasted 2 years at a great paying job and shifted entire industries to find something he wants to do. But in the meantime, he bought a brewery. Sound familiar? And he's starting that on the side. But love what you do, much like Hot Rod's doing, right?
Well, the apple didn't fall far from the tree with that.
Oh, go ahead, Jason. What were you adding?
The apple didn't fall far from the tree with the brewing. So we know where that came from.
What a nice thing that you guys share. Well, now it's cool too. Hot Rod and Max both work for Calleffi. Oh my gosh, that makes me love them. I love Calleffi so much as a result of the impact they've had on my family. But do what you love. Yes, the money doesn't just follow. do what you love and make some money. Like figure that out. That's the game. Like find something you love to do and figure out how to make money doing it is great. Or I do have very successful friends in my life who are doing things that they don't particularly love, but it funds the rest of it. And the business part of it is a game in and of itself. Like I just happen to do drain cleaning. I don't know anything really about drain cleaning. I know more than I let on it anymore, but I'm not a technician. I never have been. But the game of business absolutely delights me. And so I do drain cleaning, and I love, love, love drain cleaners and the people who do this honorable, essential, beautiful, dangerous work. I love them. But the game for me is the money, is the business, is the people, is the careers and the opportunities. That's what turns me on. So you find these places where you can play and make money. Zig Ziglar says, money is not the most important thing, but it's right up there with oxygen. Yeah, it's not the most important thing, but you know, if you want to live to fight another day, money makes a lot of things easier. Money greases a lot of wheels, right? It just wheels. It makes it a little bit easier. So what we did is we ended up selling our company, Hot Rod and Yachts, to our employees, and you know, 26 years later, they still run Hot Rod and Yachts in Park City, Utah, and it makes me very proud.
That's awesome.
So, and at that point, then Hot Rod and I had the opportunity to do what we each wanted to do, because while he wanted to work all by himself, I'm thinking, I want to know if I have the chops to run a big business. I like collaboration, creativity. I love working with people. We didn't have the same vision, and there's nothing wrong with that. So the next book I wrote was the Bare Bones Biz Plan. And a business plan is anything that causes you to ask questions like, what do you want? Why do you want it? How much money do you want to make? What do you want to do? Who do you want to work for? What kind of time frame do you have in mind? Those journalistic questions, who, what, why, when, how, that's business planning. So a business plan, like the boiled down definition of a business plan, is anything that helps you clarify intention and take aligned action. So that became my obsession. So now if I'm interested in growing a business of my own, and Hot Rod gets to do whatever he wants to do, what do we do with our individual paths? Well, Hot Rod started a business called Show Me Radiant Heat out in Missouri. We just bought a farm. Like we went middle-aged crazy, left Park City, bought a farm in Missouri. Is that crazy? People are like, why not? It was really fun. And we lived there for 25 years. We just moved back to Utah because Max and his wife have a baby and they live in Utah. So here we are. Grandparent magnetism and all that. But you know, when you understand how money works, you charge more than it costs, you have so much power and freedom. Like if it was down to me and one other person on the face of the earth, I would sell them something. We would trade. Until there is an economy of some kind, there's no real freedom in a family, in a community, in a country, right? So like that ability to create honorable free trade is so liberating, right? And so like if you are thinking of a business of your own, if you do want to do that, might I suggest that as sexy as all the technical stuff is in this hydronic world, there is the same technology and opportunity to learn how business works. You may not want to. I would encourage you to take a look. Like if, I don't like the numbers, I don't like QuickBooks, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's just math. You guys do more math. There is more math in this than there is in QuickBooks. Yeah. You know what it's not beyond your ken to figure out the business side of business, or to get some help and join a group, find a consultant, get some other like-minded business owners. You know, that's what we can do. That's what's happened, Steve, in light of the fact that the trades weren't teaching business. Technicians and tradespeople started connecting and developing business-focused groups.
So it's funny, Ellen. So you talked about how you came up with your price. So I had my own plumbing business. I'm a master plumber, of course, and I have my own plumbing business. And the way I set my fees when I started was I called all the local plumbers to get their hourly, right? And I took the most expensive guy in the area that I thought was hugely successful because he had backhoes, he had a yard, he had a building, he had 50 employees, was charging, and now I'm talking 1970, 78, right? So a long time ago. And he was charging $55 an hour and everybody else was charging $25 an hour. So I charged $52 an hour and made great money. I have no idea why. I had no idea my overhead going into this business. You know, I had not a clue.
Well,
Just,
and first, like we did the same thing, only I wasn't as smart as you. I went to the low end and charged less. You know, we call each other, you know, how much to install a blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, it's just the blind leading the blind. What do we know? But once I started to do the math, I think with my process and hot rods too, I do remember as we're crunching the numbers and I'm realizing I'm going to have to charge a lot more. Our first jump was like from $50 an hour, $30 an hour, $30 an hour to $112.50. I even remember.
What year was this?
This is like in 78, 79.
Holy crap.
No, it was like in 88.
Okay, all right.
88. So this is where, you know, I'd read the article, 89. That's when the article came out.
Okay, yep.
Start, you know, getting a clue. But I still laugh about the 50 cents, like 112.50, right? 150, and then went to 175 and 200 and 250, and it kept going up. But even now as I look across the landscape, $300-400 an hour baked into a flat rate price is a fairly standard selling price. That won't cut it anymore, as much as we want it to. You know, like that's where that, you know, we don't want to charge more. And this is again going back to how nice plumbers are. I don't want to rip anybody off, dude. The people getting ripped off here are you and your team members. You know, usually, Dan Holohan tells a story. I like giving Dan credit. This is his story, and it's such a good story. It's about a copper elbow. He said he told this in a seminar once, and he said there's really no boring subjects, only boring people. Like anything can be interesting. And he pulls up a copper elbow. I probably got one here. You know, like they're, you know, copper fitting. Pulls up a copper fitting, and he says, you know, copper fitting. How interesting is that? And then he tells the story of the copper fitting. It starts maybe in a Chilean copper mine, and some guy's just scratching out copper out in the darkness with a miner's lamp, and then, you know, in this rickety mine truck, and he goes down, and then it goes to the truck, and then the truck gets on the boat with the container, and it sails across the ship, and then maybe you know, I think he told the story with Worsbo, because didn't Worsbo start as a sword manufacturer? Right, like in 500 years ago, and he builds a story, and it's just so delicious. He talks about it, and then it fits. It's right, like copper elbow, thousands, millions of them a day actually fit. What kind of engineering marvel is this thing? You know, it describes the whole bit, and the whole time he's telling the story, what I'm thinking is this is the supply chain, and what happens is when that arrives at your door, Steve. Now you're going to put a selling price on that copper elbow that needs to support the UPS driver, the supply house, the sword manufacturing company, the shipping to across to the Chilean. Every single person in that supply chain is depending on the end moment, delivering it to the customer to make sure there's enough money in it. And what happens? Mrs. Fernwicke, who just spent $160 million on her granite countertops, turns to you and says, oh, can you give me 10% off? I've just overspent on the rest of my house. So you're going to get the job, and I'll tell all my friends, but if you could just shave off. And so the contractor takes the hit and then squeezes the supply house, who squeezes the manufacturer, who squeeze all the way back, and it's wrong.
See, that's where I differed, Ellen, because I had somebody after I did their entire bathroom, and they wanted to cut my price, and it was a quoted price. I mean, it was a signed contract, and she said, and at the end, you know, let's say it was $5,000, because I'm talking the 70s, and she said, no, I only give you $3,000, and I said, no, you're going to give me $5,000. She goes, no, I'm only going to give you $3,000. I says, I'll tell you what, you can keep your 3 and I'm going to take the bathroom back out again at my expense and leave you with studs and walk away. And she said, okay, I'll pay you the 5.
Than the average bear, and it is good to dig your heels in. And of course, it's like there are going to be people who try, and as an industry, we haven't done a great job of building the value that works so often that people still do it.
Yeah.
Right, that they're still trying to like negotiate, or there'll be this kind of understanding that you really have to beat up your contractors. You know what makes me nuts? I love HGTV because I like the instant gratification, but I hate how they represent contractors. Are y'all with me?
Yeah.
The contractor always takes the hit. The Instagram influencer who's remodeling her house, and the house is like $2 million, goes back to the contractor to ask him to take $3,000 off of his bid. It makes me bananas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's why like I do this. It's like you deserve it. You deserve a lot of money, and not only you, but the great people who work with you. We talk about the shortage of skilled labor. Well, you know how we can change that? Pay people a lot. Service technicians should make at least 6 figures. They should have benefits. If we had national health care, that may be a boon to small business, but we don't. So you have to pay it, and you want to pay their health care, and you want to have the benefits, and you want to give them some time off. You want them to have a family. You want to teach them maybe English as a second language or financial literacy, have book club, do fun things at work. Like all of that costs your customer. But if we're going to attract people to come work in our industry, we have to create opportunities, not just jobs, careers, not just jobs. That's what Al Levy says, and I love
Well,
it.
and Mike Rowe is, Mike Rowe and Dirty Jobs and the whole thing. He's pushing this dramatically. I mean, I've got hooked up with his podcast, and I listen to it. And I drive a lot. I mean, I drive 50,000 miles a year. I listen to a lot of shit. I listen to books. I'm looking for I don't even know if your books are on tape yet. I got to find them, but.
Yeah.
But I do all Audible, right? And last year, during COVID, I read 36 books in a year.
Oh, that's
driving.
So
and
podcasts anymore. Podcasts will get, and I do a lot of this. You can listen to the recording, which is awesome.
I'm out of credits on Audible. I'm listening to podcasts. But Mike Rowe gets my weekly podcast listening, and phenomenal building the trades and building it as a profession, which is what we should be. Because back in the day when I was in school, only the bad kids went to tech school. You didn't learn a trade unless you couldn't learn, or better yet, the teacher couldn't learn to teach you. And so they sent you to tech school, and off you go, go learn a trade. And I was happy because I'd like to work with my hands, but so many kids are pushed into college that don't belong there, all because they're given this treatment.
How many schools have cut their tech programs? That's why.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They don't even have the provision to offer it anymore because they've done away with that facility.
Yep.
It is heartbreaking. And so, as we look to where we are now, so, Hot Rod, just like to kind of catch you up on like the Rohr family history. So Hot Rod worked his own business and he rocked it. He worked by himself. His mission statement was he was going to work for people he liked on projects that were interesting and they better pay. And if they wanted to work with him, get in line. It was like West Coast choppers with Hot Rod. Get in line, right?
Nice.
You're asking the price, you can't afford it. That was really where he went with it. And then he was wooed by Kalefi, and Kalefi came to visit us on Know It All Lane, and I'm going to cry. Kalefi totally honors and respects his skill set. They have a million engineers. They are so excellence oriented. The quality of the products they have, and the people at that company are so amazing. And what I love about them is that they understood that Hot Rod's skill set is something that's valuable, and there aren't a lot of people who know what he knows in terms of his overall bank of knowledge, and they really respect and honor him. And so he's been there. What have you been there? 15 years now, H? Yeah. So he's been there about 15 years. And then I am just so happy that now our son Max works at Kalefi, and they actually work in the same department. So they have a lot of fun together, and it's been really neat to see how good the trades have been to my family. That you have these multiple careers. You can be a technician, you could go into training, you can work with manufacturers as you guys have. There's a lot of opportunity in this industry, and these should be valued careers. At Zoom Drain, our drain professionals we do our best to overcome that stereotype, because you know what? They'll get a job with us and they'll tell their friends they're doing drain cleaning, and their friends will go, drain cleaning? What? Why aren't you going to college? What are you doing? They're going to get some grief about it. And so we do what we can every day to say, this is where the money is. We're paying you to go to school. You're not going to have debt. We train you in our classroom with our curriculum. We invest a lot of money, time, and energy in helping our team members operate safely, productively, profitably, make great money, do it, and feel really proud. We have nice tools, good equipment. It's all maintained. We don't put them out in rickety trucks. Our trucks are tall so they can stand in them. There's nothing civilized about crawling in the back of a messy van, right? So all of these details, like what we can do to woo people to our industry, and I'm failing every day at this. I wish we had women. I have one woman technician out of 125 technicians right now. That's not great, right? We need more. And what could we do for vets as they come back? These are process-oriented people. I know some companies who are doing a really good job with making pathways out of the service into civilian life with the trades. And, you know, a path to citizenship, an honorable path to citizenship in this. Couldn't we do this? Can't we help a brother out? So this is, you know, what obsesses me. I fail every day at this. My intention is to do better. I'm proud of how far we've come as an industry. You know, we put in nice systems. People are making much better money. Owners are, team members are. There's work to be done, but we're so much better than we were.
But our biggest problem, Ellen, is that for every 10 we lose, we're only gaining 1 because of that butt crack plumber perception. And now you've run 2 companies. You've been 3 really, if you count your plumbing heating business with Hot Rod, right? And then you're president of another and president of this one. And that whole path, how did you get into these? And you've mentioned Zoom quite a few times, and I know you're president of another one prior to that. Did you start those? Did you join them? And I mean, how did that whole thing go together?
Well, and you know, when Hot Rod and I decided not to work together, he right away started his own Radiant company when we moved out to Missouri, and he got going. And I was like a boat adrift. What do I want to do? Well, I went to a Mark Victor Hansen, the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy. I went to one of his seminars, and I remember like racing after him after the thing. And, you know, you talk to the speaker and stuff. And I just said, you talk about, you know, you have to follow your dream and your purpose. I don't know my purpose. Like this is so embarrassing to admit. But when I was working with Hot Rod, the main reason why we would fight is I wanted him to be different. So my career was trying to get my husband to do stuff. How wrong is that? It's not like, it's just like I wanted him to be different, when instead I needed to figure out what my gifts were. How am I going to serve? What's my path? So I was pretty boat afloat here after we decided not to work together. I didn't know what to do. So Mark Victor Hansen said, oh, if you don't know your purpose is to find it. Figure out what you like to do, like we were talking earlier, and figure out a way to monetize it, you know, make some money, do things that appeal to you. And I thought, well, what really, I really like the business part. I really wish someone had taught me balance sheet, profit and loss. That's when I wrote the books, started writing for magazines, made a career out of helping other mom pop shops get over that hump from survival to sustainable. That was really what I was doing with my consulting and my books. I started writing for the magazines and I started speaking. So as a result of that, one day I'm doing a seminar, and Jim Abrams from Venvest, later on it was called Clockworks. He was you know, a brilliant guy, particularly in the HVAC world, and he started a group called Plumbing Success International, and the spin-off group was Benjamin Franklin. And all they had done is like license the name. They hadn't gotten any farther than that. And I did a seminar, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, we need a president for Benjamin Franklin. It's a plumbing company. We're gonna, you know, grow it. We're gonna franchise it, and we want you to be the leader of it. Now, keep in mind, the only company I'd been involved with so far was our 4-truck outfit at Hot Rod and Yachts. So the country's largest plumbing company. And I said, yes. So here's the point. Say yes to stuff that lines up with what you want, even if you don't know how to do it. I was way over my skis with this. No way, no how was I qualified to say yes, but I did. And so what happened is, as I got started, I didn't know what to do, so I started riding along. Part of it was just to escape the office. We're gonna go woo this guy and have him become our first franchise. It's Fred Oldenkamp, I'll never forget him. So I go to Fred's and I go, well, let me ride along with one of your guys. So I'd ride along. I've gone on about 200 ride-alongs now. It's not nearly enough, not nearly enough. But you ride along and you ask questions like, what do you like about your job? What do you hate about it? What does Fred ask you to do that makes sense? What does Fred ask you to do that makes no sense? If I were to be involved with this company, what could I do that would be of service to you? How could we help you? And they tell you. It's so easy. So my learned how to do drains, and I don't know what any of these parts are, how it works, but all I did was talk to the front line and ask them, what do you need? What doesn't work? What would you like to have happen? Why do you do this trade? What's the best part of being in the trades for you? What makes it hard? Why would you quit? And those are the keys. I could document and affect change, and that's really what a president does, right? I'm going to be facilitating change at the company. And so we grew, and we grew really because of the help and the support of the Benjamin Franklin. I had awesome franchisees. And so love to them. We called ourselves the revolutionaries once upon a time, and they're still very powerful in that organization. I left after a few years because I was going to be required to move to Florida, and I didn't want to go to Florida, and it was a lead follower, get out of the way moment. But what that experience taught me is franchising is a rockin' awesome model. So franchising is being in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So we wrote the manuals. We've got the brand. We've got the marketing. We've got the support. We know the HR person. We've got manuals. You don't have to write them. You can jumpstart your business by 10 years if you start a business with a franchise. I just fell in love with franchising. Now, it's not for everybody because you got to play well with others, but I do. So it's definitely for me. Right. So I really learned to love franchising. That was a great experience. I loved the franchisees at Benjamin Franklin. So when I left, I had this itch to scratch to do it again. I worked for investors at that organization. I wasn't an owner. So I knew the next time around I wanted to be the owner. So Al Levy, y'all know Al. Okay, Al Levy and I are besties, best friends. We're both consultants. We're working with a lot of similar customers. Like he and I would work together on projects. And I said to Al one day, I said, you know what? I want to try this franchising again. I loved it. There's some things I learned that I don't want to do, things I definitely want to do again. I love the construct. He says, I'm in. I want to be an investor. One of the things on my list is I want to invest in companies I believe in. So we have an investor. Now I need a model shop. And just as we're talking about it, Al's phone blows up. It's Jim Cronetti of Zoom Drain in Philadelphia, who is a former client of ours. And he says, you know, I'm thinking maybe I could franchise Zoom Drain. We never looked at another company. We went all in with Zoom Drain. And that was about 6 years ago. Isn't that cool?
That is cool. That's very cool. And it's a local to me. So Zoom Drain started 10 miles from me, if that, right?
What trucks? And then when you see them, I'm always go, is it clean? Was it shiny? Was it a clean truck?
Yeah, I've never seen a dirty Zoom truck. I think I saw one. I think it had been in a car accident, and they were taking it to the shop to get it fixed, I'm sure. But for the most part, every Zoom truck has been gorgeous.
But you know, like even as you mentioned the accident, for me, for you, it's a dangerous world.
Well, yeah.
So what you do for a business, if you're using trucks to do it, it is a dangerous world. And then we add on to that, like with hydronics, we have fire and water and electricity. What could go wrong? Power, right? All that. What could go wrong? It is a dangerous world. So every day we're also mitigating that risk, trying to keep our guys safe. The additional cost of that, you should be premium priced. There's just no way around it, right? So that's really the voice I consider, like my career right now is really as a champion of the trades. I want the people who work with me to be safe and happy. I stole that from Alan O'Neill. I love it so much. He likes his team, you know, he asks his team members, do you feel safe? Are you happy? Like, what is it going to take? They may not stay with you forever. That's fine. But while they're with us, could we make this experience positive, powerful, life-changing, better? You know, that's what I'm after. And again, we fail every day. But I'm loving it. I love the franchisees we have. We have 5 new franchisees in 2022. So we're
Nice.
up to 20 franchisees, which are
How many?
23. We have 2 corporate-owned stores, total of 23. So 21 franchisees now. Yeah. So now get them all profitable, get them all turnkey. You know, that's what we do every day.
So here's a question for you, because franchising is new, totally new to me. You know, I'm a wholesaler, a master plumber by trade. I never thought, you know, I sold my plumbing business to buy a supply house. I grew that into 3 branches, which are not franchises, and a huge company. And you may notice the name Johnstone just went from a co-op to a franchise. So my question is, what is involved in getting into a franchise, right? What I mean, and what do you get for your money, I guess is what it comes down to, right?
But there's 2 sides of that question. One is, wow, I've got my company pretty dialed in. I've got manuals. I've got a rockin' great brand. I've got, you know, there's a turnkey approach to this business. Maybe I could be a franchisor. I could franchise my business. So the definition of a franchise is, are there systems and procedures to which you hold people accountable? Is there a common flag flown? So do we have a brand that we're going to leverage? Because the more people using that brand, the more power that brand could have. And then the third component is, are you paying for it? If those 3 components are there, you have a franchise. Now, licensing has to take out one of those. So licensing very often takes out the systems and leaves you with the name and the payment. Or like an affinity group like Nexstar. Nexstar, you can't use Nexstar as your name. They take the name out, but they hold they have systems and procedures for their members, and you pay for it. So that's just, there's different constructs out there. And so you're going to decide, do I want to be independent? Do I like to work all by myself? Would I like to become a franchisor and learn more about that? Or maybe I should buy a franchise. Would a franchise be of service to me? So going to that question, some of our franchisees are plumbing contractors. And so they added Zoom Drain as another car in the garage. Why? Well, I could get going faster. They've already built the manuals, already have the training, already have the brand, right? And so I'm going to pay them a royalty so I don't have to do that. So now if I were Frank Blau, I would say, hey, if you want to be a franchise, raise your prices by 5%, raise them by 10%, pay the franchise fee royalty of 5%, and you're good to go. Your customer pays for everything, right? Still, I take seriously how much money you're giving me. What I want to do as a franchisor is make it a no-brainer. Like, buying groups are a really cool way to get into one of these affinity groups or a franchise if they can help you with purchasing. But now, drain cleaning, there's not a lot of material, but there's a lot of equipment. So the relationships, I have, even trucks, I have 100 trucks on order right now. Trucks are not easy to get. If you want to do better with me, do you see what I mean? So I'm adding value.
Oh, we know that.
Yeah, right? I mean, trucks are tricky, and trucks have doubled in price. They doubled their prices over the last. How crazy is that? You think those prices are coming back down?
And plan on paying a premium above the sticker price in the window.
Ask Ted.
Who would have thought? We used to wheel and deal with truck dealers. Now we're saying, I'll take it, right? So, you know, who pays for that? Customer pays for everything. So selling prices, again, across the board in our industry, just be prepared. Talk to your guys about it. Show them the math. Show them your budget. Show them your calculations. Dude, I wish we didn't have to charge more, but it's not fair to take it out of your hide or mine. The customer benefits. Now we have to figure out how to add so much value to this transaction that our customers say, they're expensive, but so worth it.
That's cool. That's awesome. I mean, you know, so you know,
For letting me be on the soapbox like this, I absolutely love it.
I
coming up for you. Do you want to add to the conversation? He's straightening up. You gotta know how he's working on the shelves here in the background.
Yeah, yeah. It's the. Am I going to toss it or keep it? Toss it or keep it?
Keep it, Hot Rod. Well, but you know, Hot Rod's a really good reminder to me too. Like my vision is this franchise scaling. You know, 100 million, 200 million in total sales. Like that's the direction I'm going. But Hot Rod is a good reminder every day that the senior question here is, what do you want? What do you want to do? How do you want to live your life? You can have a boutique business where you are the craftsman, the technician. You work for a select clientele. You interview your clientele. You say, you know what? I'm only going to take on 5 customers this year. So let's have you fill out an application. Let's see if you're going to be a good client for me to work with. Turn the tables on him. As soon as Hot Rod became exclusive, he became really popular. West Coast choppers. So there's lots of ways to go to market in this glorious industry of ours. And by that, I mean the trades in general, plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical, on-site waste treatment, like anything, you know, that deals with keeping us alive on this planet in terms of shelter and warmth and water, right? So, you know, getting rid of
Essential services. It's essential services.
I mean, how grateful I mean, it was so cool over the course of the pandemic to realize how important our jobs were, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, like so grateful for that. Like it was just the best. So anyway, it's the top of the hour. We haven't asked any questions. What happened?
So I have 2 things first before we go on to questions.
Okay. All right.
So I know you've written 4 bestsellers.
Well, bestsellers in the ball cock replacement industry. Yes.
In the ball cock replacement industry. God love you. And by the way, I will forever use knowing your assets from your elbow. I will use that forever, by the way. So you have 4 books, and I didn't get a slide in on how people can contact you if you want to. I mean, I have your LinkedIn and you and I shared cell phone numbers, but I don't want to do that. So your 4 books and how to contact you.
Well, you can go to Amazon and search, or you can buy the books from my website. EllenRohr.com is a good place to go. ELLENROHR.com. And then it'll ask you if you want to be on my list. You can be on my list. I give away Where Did the Money Go for free. Just you can put your name and email in, and you get a copy of Where Did the Money Go. So like I really want to be of service, and that website, I work with Howard Partridge, who's has a really good affinity group, and he kind of like I'll sometimes go like the ant with the casserole to his presentations. I'm doing one May 17th and 18th and 19th in Dallas. He puts it on, I show up. So I do a little bit of that. Mostly I'm working with Zoom Drain. If you're interested in Zoom Drain, go to zoomdrainfranchise.com. If you're interested in franchising your own business, go to zoomdrainfranchise.com and see how it works. Like that's a whole game in itself, and it's really, really cool. We know a lot about drains, and I use the royal we because I don't actually do anything. But my team is smart when it comes to technology. Our trucks are so tricked out. We have great vendor partners, and we are the drain and sewer experts. My next game in life is I want to be the best franchisor. I want to do right by my franchisees and the great people who work with them. That's what's really getting me out of bed every day.
So you want to be the Rita Waterice of drain cleaning.
I know her, I met her, and I love her, and she's from Philadelphia.
I know. I wanted to put a franchise in Maine, and they won't go any further north than Rhode Island. I'm like, please, God, I could rake it up in 4 months.
But it's pronounced Waterice.
Exactly.
Love it, love her, every bit of that. Yeah, so like franchising in general, like if you have a kid who wants to start a business of their own, I would wholeheartedly encourage them to explore franchising. Not start from scratch. Have some built-in support. Have those manuals already written. Have the marketing already baked in. And you can research, right? Like there's franchise consultants out there. They're like realtors. They're terrific. They're going to help, find out about you, and they're going to steer you in a direction, and you don't pay for them. the sale of the franchise compensates the consultants in the industry. It's a lot like real estate that way. You can find a real estate broker who can help you, and you can find a consultant, they're called, in franchising. But I really like franchising as an honorable model for business. Not the only way to go to business, but it's the way I'm going to business right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you know, and I miss your articles. I haven't seen you in a magazine for a long time. I see Max all the time, for God's sake. I mean,
know. Well, Max is great because Max is now writing monthly. Hot Rod writes a few times a year, and I write once a quarter. So I write for PHC News, and they're so good to me. I love PHC News so much. Steve and I have been together forever, and Steve Smith and Kate and Brad and Dave and the crew and Mark, Nicole, they're awesome over there. So they really make it easy, but I'm like, hey, I'm busy. How about if Max does my podcast? So I'll do the occasional podcast now, and Max is doing the Behind the Wall podcast, which is fantastic. At Zoom, we have a really cool podcast and YouTube channel starting up. We've got Catch of the Day. All the gross stuff we find in drains is one of our upcoming plans.
no.
Isn't that gross?
Oh my God. No. I used to do drain cleaning and you know, as a plumber, right? So, you know, we all carried a general machine, for God's sake, and none of us knew how to really use them, but we did our best we could. And you just prayed that the goddamn cable didn't break in the drain, right? So, but the stuff we pulled out, and I still laugh because I'm still with all these guys where they hold up the little white mice and the giant hairball and the all the roots and the oh my God, the stuff I've seen people on Instagram is phenomenal for that shit. I love it.
Love it. But what you just said too, our number one lead source are plumbers, even plumbers who advertise that they do drains, because you know the back of your truck is really full, and you might have one mid-sized cable machine that you hope isn't broken. And so we get a lot of referral work from plumbers, and we turn the plumbing right back to them, because our trucks are just drain and sewer. So it's really a neat niche business. Micro niches are very popular right now. Oh, if we have time to, you know what else has been really cool the last couple of years? The amount of money that people are selling their companies for. OMG. And I am so happy about this. Like, real wealth is being generated.
Wait a minute. Are you talking that it's no longer 10% on goodwill, meaning your customers and 10% of it, that you're no longer selling for 10% of goodwill?
I tell you, most businesses will sell like that, because most businesses aren't ever going to go from, my friend Howard Partridge says it like this: you start with survivability, then sustainability, then success, starting to take some money out, getting a nicer truck, life is good. Then you go to significance, then you go to scalability. You really have to be here to get the kind of earnings that we've seen happen in this industry. But you can always sell your business. It's just that if you really are looking to create some wealth, you've got to get to a business that is going to scale and consistently deliver profits and cash, whether or not you're working it. Now, again, you get to do whatever you want, and there's always a buyer for your company. You can, if you have questions about that, you can go to ellenrohr.com. It's a topic of conversation that I usually talk about. But there's always some value in your company. But if it's just you and you haven't been nice to your customers and they don't call you back, there's not a lot of value. If it's just you and your customers love you, then handing the care of those customers over to another contractor is going to be pretty popular. By the way, I have a guest star today too.
Aw. So it's funny you say that about buying, right? So you just froze. Did you just hang up on me? Uh-oh, I think we lost Ellen. Or did I lose everybody?
No, you got me.
Okay, good. Ellen's back. Good. Ellen's back.
Oh.
You're muted.
Moving that, I ended up screwing it up. Sorry about that.
So
am I muted now? Oh,
No.
okay.
You're good.
You're back.
See, the dog, I screwed it up.
So you say that, and I have a firm that I just started working with who has been buying oil and heating professional companies, and so their new slogan is, we cover 6 counties. Why? Because they keep buying people in every county to get to those counties. And they have a phenomenal business plan. They got 401ks, they got good insurances, they have, time off, they have family time, they got blah, blah, blah. They got everything. And they treat their people well, which means they're going to stay and they want to work there. Everybody gets paid well. And it amazes me.
Yeah. And so acquisition is a way for you to grow your own business, and divesting your business at some point may be part of your game plan if you want to take some money off the table. And a lot of people sell part of their company, so they maintain some stock in the newer company. Some people don't like working for somebody else and they end up leaving, but I'll tell you what, everybody I know in the industry who sold their company is back in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I did a training at a HVAC company last week in Frederick, Maryland, and they just sold to a huge conglomerate called Sila, and they have no idea what the future holds, but the owner's very happy, but everybody below him is very afraid, and I'm hoping that a company like that, when they come and buy, reassures the people when they come in that they're going to be employed and stay there, because everybody, I mean, and I'm just a manufacturer coming in to do training, right? And everybody from the lowest technician to the highest management was explaining to me their nervousness. And you can understand that, right?
Yeah, and there's some everybody gets to do what they want. So if there is if you're a team member and your company has been sold, you might not like the new sheriff, you might not like the new game in town. That might be a trigger for you to start a business of your own. In the franchise process, franchise development, I'm visiting with people candidates who are interested in Zoom franchise. Almost to a one, they're ready to take charge of their own destiny. Their companies have been bought or sold. And now these are not necessarily industry people, but business people or sales people who are have a 401k. They're ready to invest in their future, but they have been at the effect of a lot of these changes, and they're feeling the need to be master of their own destiny, which is what business ownership can do. Also, if you're trying to grow your business and there's some consolidation going on in your marketplace, the people who are left behind or working for the new guy may be vulnerable and may be interested in working for you. And people get to work where they want. Words like poaching or stealing, that applies to slavery. We don't do that. You get to work where you want to work. You get to do what you want to do. So if someone would rather work for you at this point in their career, they get to. And you know what? So they can leave you and go work for someone else. Every day, these team members vote with their feet. They show up or they don't. And a lot of that is on you.
Oh, yeah. So let's say I was a 60-year-old guy, surprise, and or 60 something. And
you were.
I was 60, yes. So that's enough, Jason, out of you, okay? And you used to be 6 feet tall, never. But
yeah, never.
But and so you're looking at not being out there in the field all the time. You don't want to tear your rotator cuff. You don't want to fall down the steps. You don't want to burn your hands anymore. You don't want to light off boilers. So you pick and choose what you want to do, but you have guys that will do everything else. But what's the next step? And you talk about selling your business. What's the next step in determining if you have a sellable business and what you can sell it for?
Okay, it takes us right back to where we started. If you don't have a solid balance sheet and profit and loss, if you can't demonstrate that this company can deliver profits and cash on the regular, you're only going to be getting a discounted price for your business. Just period. They're not going to come and give you a premium price and then have to fix that. You with me? They're going to discount it based on the fact that now I got to go in and figure out if there's any money here, right? And things like, well, we take a lot of sales in cash. I suggest you don't, because you can't prove that they're there.
Hey,
right? So
you
have to go up. Right. If you want to sell your business, you could start now to address those things. So you have to have solid accounting in place. You have to know where the money is, where it comes from, where it goes, and how to make more of it. And as the owner, it is your job. It's nobody else's job. You're going to have bookkeepers, you're going to have an accountant. None of them relieve you of your responsibility to figure out the money. They're just going to help you. So you get the money figured out as step one, and then you put systems in place. Manuals, procedures, man, I have written manuals before. I've paid for manuals to be written. My buddy Al Levy helped us write these terrific manuals at Zoom Drain. It's why they're so good. I would really rather quit than write another full set of manuals again. That's like, why would you join a franchise? So you don't have to do that. Manuals are a grind to get out. Anyone who's ever done them knows what I'm talking about. However, you do need them. And who would write them? The good people who work with you. And how do they write them? They're going to start taking videos of what they do. They're going to write a short checklist. It doesn't have to be fancy, but you have to get started. You might hire someone to help you get those manuals written, but manuals are really the how to do things at your company: how to answer the phone, how to book a call, how to clean a main line, how to replace a thermocouple, whatever it is. You're adding to that bank of knowledge, and the manuals are what we hold team members accountable to, what we train off of, and what they use as a resource when they're out in the field. You really don't have a turnkey business without manuals. Otherwise, you're just telling them what to do all day. Does that,
So,
you know what I mean?
So is that like an employee manual, or is that like a pricing book for flat rate pricing, or is that a procedural manner of how to deal with people?
Yes, yes, all.
I mean, when I had my wholesale business, I had to write an employee manual. And the nice thing was I could get and now I'm talking back 1983, right? And I could download a program and put it on my 5.5-inch floppies and put it into my computer that would help me write this manual. Is there anything that you can suggest that would be a helpful tool for these guys?
Well, Al Levy, if you go to 7powercontractor.com, Al Levy is like the best operations guy I know. So Al Levy for sure is a good place to start. And he has even some starter manuals that you can buy and then finish them yourself. He also, and it'll cost you, can help you do it. So he's very exclusive about who he works for, but it's worth it. I mean, I've worked with Al. I love Al, best friends, besties. And he just, he's the operations dude. So in our industry, he might be a good resource for you. You can write your own manuals, and it will, it's not an impossible task. It just takes time. You have to start now. So if you want to sell your company for maximum value, you have to know where the money is. You have to be priced right, and you have to be able to have people do the work without you. Most companies are 3 trucks or less, and most of them are 1 truck company. Like, this is a highly fragmented industry, which is, again, that's fine. You can do what you want. But the opportunities to create some big companies are there. And those companies are the ones that are going to sell for more value. If you could get your company to 5 million in sales, $1 million on the bottom line, there's going to be some people knocking on your door right now to make some good offers.
Wow.
That's probably the entry mark for, you can always sell your business and you could get good value from your company, but for a traditional EBITDA valuation, I'd say $1 million EBITDA, or that's earnings, profit, is a good benchmark. It's not gospel, but it's a good benchmark.
So I always looked at what I called exit strategy, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I've owned a company, I've always had an exit strategy, meaning if I am the company, if everything's dependent on me, it's not good, because if I die, there's no more company. It doesn't matter how many people I have. But if I have built into it, whether I go ESOP or whether I go selling it outside the business or whatever the case might be, I always try to build into it an exit strategy.
Yeah.
And does that make sense?
It does, and it doesn't, that doesn't have to be everyone's choice. Like, again, if you work by yourself and you figure, like, my knees and back are going to give me, I got 20 years on them, and I'm going to charge enough money that I can sock away money for my retirement. I'm going to also get into real estate. I'm going to play with Bitcoin. Like, you can have multiple streams of income, right? And then do what you want. You can craft the life of your dreams. Just know what the opportunities, the advantages, the disadvantages are, and be conscious of it. If you put all your eggs in a basket where it's just you working day in and day out, and you're underpriced in the first place, you don't have any retirement, you've hardly paid yourself. When you go to sell that company, or what I get about once a month, is the wife of the plumber calling and saying, I finally talked my husband into selling my company. And I'm like, oh, that's good. And she tells me about it, and there's nothing there. There is no value there. There's nothing written. There's no evidence of making any money. And now her husband, the plumber, who has all the knowledge in his head, he just didn't build enough of an empire. So that's tragic, because that kind of got away from them. As long as you're conscious about your decisions, build the life of your dreams. Uh-oh, did I lose Wheels?
No,
Can
I'm
you-
here. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
It's I moved my mouse and it clicked me off. I apologize.
okay.
But,
Ever since I had the dog, I feel like I messed up my connection.
I watch so many people get to the age of 70 in our industry and go, you know, what I do from now. I mean, I have rigid wrenches that were made in 1942. I have a tri-stand. I have hand die cutters. I got blah, 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 blah. And I have this truck that I like put brakes on every 3 weeks because it sucks. And they got nothing, but they've not built any succession. And that's why I bring this up, because it's important. If you've built this legacy, you built this business, you have your 150 or 400 or 800 repeat customers who will only deal with you because, you know, you can put that washer on, or you can put that screw on, or you can, you know, whatever the case might be. And they don't think that far in advance. And that's why I bring this up, because not only is it important.
Like, here, oh, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. Finish your thought, and then I'm going to add.
No, I said not only is it important to get into business and be profitable, but it's important to know how to get the hell out.
How to get the hell? Okay, so let me plus that too, because here's a story that makes me very happy. So Jim Crenity had a friendly competitor, a fellow named John, and his brother Dave, and they had a company called Pipe Shark in the Philadelphia area, and their focus was on trenchless. They got into trenchless way early. Jim did, they did, and they both worked alongside each other as friendly competitors for 25 years. And then John calls Jim not long ago, and he says, I'm 67, my brother's 65, we're done. You know, if you're interested in buying our company, let's sit down and talk. And where there was tremendous value, which is really exciting, is Jim said, well, how about if you come and you're the trainer? Like, you have more in your you know, pinky understanding of trenchless and drains than, you know, we've got these great manuals, but the manuals take you 80% there. You've got that extra 20% that took you a lifetime to acquire in terms of your knowledge. So his next career has been a trainer at Zoom Drain, and these young kids who work with him, they call him Uncle Johnny. They love him. They love him. And now he works part-time. He's got grandkids. He's got a life. He's traveling with his wife, but he's still like this rock star in our organization. Or Hot Rod as a trainer at Caleffi. He turns wrenches here because he's Mr. Wizard, but he doesn't, it's not the wear and tear on his back like it used to be once upon a time. So this bank of knowledge that you have could really usher in a whole nother career. So, you know, while the company itself may not have created a lot of value, there are manufacturers, there are businesses, there's, you know, Zoom Drain is definitely interested in that kind of an arrangement. I see that happening in all of our locations. I would love to make another career for the guy who's ready to not, you know, get on his hands and knees every day, and instead teach them the new generation of professionals what they know. Like Dan Hallahan said, they're going to be dead. They will only have dead men.
It's so you just said it best. So, you know, on this screen, there's 4 people. You know, you started with Hot Rod, having a failing business and bringing it back to life. Ted had his own contracting business. Jason was an oil service manager when I met him. I had my own plumbing and heating business. And you've given us a bunch of resources like ellenrohr.com. For God's sake, get on it. You know, find Hot Rod, because Hot Rod is always playing in the basement. Oh my God, I love his. I love it when he goes on and goes, oh, look at my new air separator with the magnetic, and oh, look at what it can do. I love this shit, right? I mean, this is what I used to do just for fun, right? On people's houses, and go, you know, I'll give you half the rate if you just let me just screw with your house, right? And you might not have heat tomorrow, but I'll fix it. Just let me play. But this is the stuff that we've all done, and the resources you've given us, like, you know, Jack Stack, for God's sake, you know, and the great game of business, and the 7 power contractor,
like the number 7 power.
Yeah,
trainfranchise.com.
it's phenomenal. So, Ellen, you know, I just looked at my watch and I realized that we
I
had
know.
gone way over. I mean,
You
you
have
know,
to get to bed.
Well, I have to say, you know, you got to give some credit to Calefi on they really do advertise well. I get all hot rods. I watch them, you know, after at night. So it's funny because they really do hammer it. And you like that. That's the way to get their name out there. You know, it's funny. And you say Al Levy.
Yeah.
I go back to when I worked at Dieter's. He came in and did the flat rate for Dieter Brothers. I remember that.
How did it go over?
Oh well, oh they made a killing on that. That was their buddy. I remember those days.
Isn't
He's
that
been
fun?
around a long time.
He's had a big impact. He's had a big impact on the industry. Really, as an operations guy, meat and potatoes, not glamorous. Here's how you do it. We have to document how we want people to do things.
Well, the
Otherwise,
guys,
telling them all that.
the guys at OESP and the EEE show, they love him. You know, because he's from the Long Island area, so they dig him.
He's now living the life in Phoenix, but he makes
Oh,
it
is
back to
he?
New York now and then. Yeah. His brothers still have OSI on
Okay.
Long Island. They
Right.
still
Oh,
do,
that's a.
yeah.
Woo, Levies are Levies.
Yeah, they're
so
I
Ellen,
mean-
I don't, you know, for God's sake, it's 8:30, and Ted wants to go to sleep.
yes. I'm sorry we're on so long.
And
No,
no,
we-
don't be sorry.
Don't be
I thought we were
sorry.
on an hour.
This has been phenomenal. This
Oh,
has
yeah.
been.
Sorry.
I'm glad. I've had a ball.
Yeah.
And you keep pointing to Hot Rod, and he won't get on. He's so bashful. Oh my God, I can't believe
Come on, Bob, get
he's
in
not
there.
a bashful person, for God's sake. There he
Bob,
is,
Oh,
the
he's a
legend, Hot Rod Rohr.
Yeah.
Bob needs that glass of wine. Remember, we're sitting in California on that nice deck, Bob, having a glass of wine. That was a nice time. That was before COVID. Bob, that's when COVID hit. Remember, we had just left California.
Yeah. No, I
I
love
will
going
never,
woods.
I'll never forget meeting you at the first RPA convention at the Choo Choo Pow Pow Lodge in Minnesota, and you had your flame boots on, and I was taken back. I was like, this guy's cool. And then and now look, I mean, God, it's 30 years later, and our kids are grown, and our kids are having kids, and we're grandparents, and we're doing this shit, having a great time. Who would have thought?
So fun. I was so excited when we said we're gonna. I'm like, you'll do cameos, right? Because I know this is kind of your land. Mm-hmm.
He's right at home here.
Yeah. It's summer.
The Thunderbird Lodge. Wow. I hadn't thought about that one time.
I prefer to call the Choo Choo Pow Pow Lodge because I remember going in there. It was dark. It was dingy. It was 1952 dark paneling. The books were being assembled by Larry's kids as you walk through. Our conference, I mean, the show area was like in the five and dime store, right in the convenience store of the place. And I remember the one night we were there was a 40s and over, and at that time that was really old people, singles dance. And I distinctly remember waking up at 2:00 in the morning. There was two people, and it was a male and female against my door, and I had to ask them to get off it. And I still remember it was just a nightmare. But it was a fun time. God, we got to know so many people, and we've stayed in touch all these years, and it's been a great industry.
I saw Larry at the last time we were in Orlando with HR. He came by the booth and we chatted and caught up for a while. He's living the life too. He's still flying. You know, he met some rich guy down there that says, "Yeah, I use my plane. What could be better?" So,
He's writing books as well.
yeah.
Aw,
Yeah.
that's fun. It's been Old Home Week today. Old
Yeah,
Home Week. Yeah.
Ellen, has been excellent. This has been so much fun.
Guys, I love you so much, and I'm so you know, when we talk about like people who've had an impact on the industry, it's you. So thanks for all you do. Thanks for this awesome forum. It's an honor to be asked to participate. So keep doing the good work that you're doing and introducing the next generation of team members to these awesome trades and helping the old farts like us make our next moves.
Excellent. Yeah.
Ellen, I said, I just had this conversation with another friend of mine who's also a plumber. And I said, when I owned my supply house and I was 35 years old, I said, I really can't sell this place. I mean, who's ever going to hire a 40-year-old? And so you know where I come from, and all of us have done great things, and we are no longer I feel we're no longer the generation people hate, because we are passing the information on to them because we want them to be better than us. We want to bring people into this community to be successful, right? And no, I mean, Hot Rod, you spend days on the correct products to make your life easier, to make sure you don't have callbacks, to make sure people are happy. We do the same thing, and God, I get goosebumps knowing that we're all doing this shit,
And how is it too that your son's into brewing and Max and Hot Rod work together? I mean, Max is the best of us. Just love you, Max. Hope you're listening. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I actually, I have a 2-year-old grandson named Max.
Yay! And Max has a 2-year-old granddaughter. So her name is Luca because Max is now Italian, apparently.
Right.
Awesome.
So, all right. Well, I'll let you guys go. Love, love, love. And thanks so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Great
you,
to
Ellen.
see you both.
Take care of yourself, my friend. Be safe.
Ellen, you rock. Hot Rod, it was great to see you. We all have to get together for dinner one night. For God's sake, we pass each other at these conventions, and we all have 1,000 people hanging off us, and we just have to try to spend one night where it's just us and get together.
Oh, that would be lovely. Let's do it.
Let's try. All right.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
We'll see y'all.
Thanks for watching the video today. If you'd like to check out more videos, see the link below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for all the future updates. And also check us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.